This week's episode was brought to you by Fernando Aguilera, Daniel Ford, and Ryan. If you also enjoy The Whole Rabbit and would like to support the show, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where you can stream all our extended episodes, a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our cover art, the last of our holographic Rabbit Clan stickers, and exclusive access to our Discord server, where you can become a trusted friend, research buddy, and if you're lucky, our next sacrificial victim to the Rabbit God. On this week's episode, we investigate the rising star of the world's fastest growing religion, Santa Muerte, exploring the parallels between folk Catholicism and ancient native faith. Adorned with jewels, puffs of marijuana smoke hiding in the curls of her bridal dress, the thin white lady is more than meets the eye. Boasting millions of devotees and a host of sorcerous miracles worked in her name, Santa Muerte is a goddess for the new Aeon. In the extended episode, we discuss how to work with Our Lady Death and journey to Mictlan to meet the original Bonemother Mictēcacihuātl. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
That's quite the operation.
There were maggots in it.
The wallet?
Oh,
No, there was no wallet. It was all for naught.
it was all maggots.
It's just
I'd rather find a maggot-filled wallet than stick my hand in a wad of maggots to find no wallet.
God damn.
Could you imagine how it's like Silent Hill 2 again, man? Could you imagine how insulting it would have been if James stuck his hand in the toilet just to do it?
Maybe he was.
No
He just
wallet?
got lucky, you know?
Ooh. Ooh.
He's just like, ooh, toilet.
Ooh. Damn. You know, I never thought about it that way.
It's like, I never find a key when I'm doing this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just burst out of our impregnated mother's pooch fully armed and ready to decapitate our siblings. Nay, we shotgun enormous puffs of weed smoke into our skeletal chica's bone nostrils, because this week we're discussing none other than Santa Muerte. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, the Hacking Rabbit. I'm joined, of course, this week by the
The muchas marvelous muchacha.
Marisama.
The dastardly Darth Dingus.
Oh, you said you hated that one.
Lasers from my eyes. No, lasers. Fuck, you fucked me up. I shoot blood from my eyes. Like a lizard.
And the meticulously masterful Malachor 5.
What's up, everybody?
It is hard coming up with onomatopoeia on the spot, I tell you what.
Alliteration. You fool.
What? Ever.
On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone drops to 0. From Fight Club.
It's narrator. Death is all around us. It permeates us, binds us, and guides the wise towards living life to its fullest, without fear and reverence of their eventual holy death. To some, this might sound a little spooky, holy death, but in the shadow of life's travails, glowing with conviction about the ideas of the soul, death might be seen as sort of a release, one on par with orgasm, or the little death, as it's known euphemistically. Following this line of reasoning, one might infer that death itself might secretly just be the big orgasm, a sentiment related by Crowley, who, relevant to our subject today, refers to death in romantic terms.
Quote, I can imagine myself on my deathbed, spent utterly with lust to touch the next world, like a boy asking for his first kiss from a woman.
Muerte milkers.
Oh, gosh.
I feel like the process of dying would honestly be so exhausted, it would be like more of a, I feel fucking awful, make it stop kind of feeling. More.
Yeah, I
I
don't
would
want to
think
die
it's-
either.
I would think it's so overwhelming that it becomes excruciating. Like, it's not painful, I don't think.
Well, you know you gotta feel like shit leading up to death, like weak as fuck.
Well, afraid, right?
Ah.
Although, if you guys ever looked into near-death experiences, people actually go out of body, and it's completely painless after you leave your body, apparently.
I'd imagine you don't even notice. You just like,
You kind
hey,
of float out of it, and you're like, hey, what the fuck? Why am I on the ceiling?
Like in sex, you know how when you cross that line and you can't, like, you know you're gonna come after that?
Yeah.
Like, once you cross that line, you're like, no. I imagine death is kind of the same way. I imagine that's when it starts to be fun. It's like right when that line, you go over that part.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how when violence breaks out, there's always like the buildup of tension until finally something happens that causes somebody to strike someone.
It's also a pressure release so that you almost feel relief. I'd say it's almost like, having a nice dump in the bathroom,
All are applicable.
Yeah, so it's this transition between the worlds. It's that release that devotees say the Holy Death represents. And in the context of folk Catholicism, it's the very thing that brings the undying soul to God. For those that might reject Catholicism entirely, the worship of Lady Death outside of this context is easy enough to understand the sentiment put forth by George Carlin regarding sun worship, another religious artifact of South American culture prior to European colonization.
I've begun worshiping the sun for a number of reasons. First of all, unlike some other gods I could mention, I can see the sun. It's there for me every day, and the things it brings me are quite apparent all the time. George Carlin.
Ah, good.
Yeah!
That was a good one.
We might say the same for death, especially in communities and amongst people greater society considers abject. The poor, the criminal, the sex worker, and the disenfranchised. Everybody dies.
Yeah, if you're poor, you can see dead stuff around you. It's part of your reality.
The whole universe, fucking planets die, stars die. Like, we ain't shit. Like, Earth ain't shit.
You're also closer to it because you have no means of escaping it. But you know how like rich people can either fly into space to mitigate their disease, or like they could buy a heart transplant and like make some kid go without it because they have $1 million and can afford it.
They're gonna die still.
They're still gonna die, but they have a way to prolong it. But it's still a lot. Like it's an illusion.
Well, this is something that makes the deity that we've chosen this week, Santa Muerte, special, because for billions of people all over the world, she is not only synonymous with death, but part of their religious association with it. And you can pray to her for almost anything.
Almost anything. I think that's probably the most important, the most enticing part about Santa Muerte.
Yeah, different colors of her cloak, different plants, stones. She does it all. She's the whole system of magic contained in one.
So what is it about her that allows you to ask for, say, love or prosperity or even protection from a death god? Why is she so versatile compared to others that could have made it into like the new Catholic pantheon?
Because she is death. She's a female loving part of death that's going to welcome your bones, and she's going to watch your bones in Mictlan, if I'm saying it right.
Mictlan. Nobody can blame you for saying this shit wrong.
Yeah, I'm Mexican descent, and I can't even remember.
But you have to consider, like, this isn't even like technically Mexican culture. This is from a culture before that.
Like the Spaniards, after they took over the Caribbean, they had an idea like, let's go to the mainland. And I believe the higher up general from Cortez, he was like, no, we're cool in the Caribbean, don't go there. But Cortez just like took a bunch of his men and led them to the mainland where the Aztecs and the Mayans were, and somehow got a translator who was this chick to like communicate between them. And they all thought the white people were these prophesized gods that were going to come.
They wore metal armor.
Weren't they gods of destruction or something?
Well, the kings of the land. And they were like, here's the gold and here's like all of our stuff and everything. But eventually they learned that these people's greed could not be satisfied ever. And when they had no more, they started killing everybody.
You know what I heard it was at first? It was that the Spaniards, when they began to think they weren't gods, is their preoccupation with gold specifically. Because to them, it was like, here's our gold this and our best feathers and our best lapis, and like we got stones and this painted skull, and we're giving you all this stuff, and the gods are like, but we want the gold. They're like, what do you mean you want the gold? It's just yellow, it's shiny. What do you care about gold more than the feathers? And you're like, we want the gold. They're like, maybe these people are fucked up.
It's a little bit off topic, but it reminds me of something too. All right, so in school they tell you that the natives reacted to these people like they were gods, right? And I remember so many times it was they mentioned specifically it was because they wore shining metal armor.
That's because it was prophesized in their own prophecy that the gods would be wearing that.
But it's kind of like they're talking about these people like they're cavemen.
Yeah, they even said they thought the man and the horse were the same being.
Yeah.
I don't think they were that dumb.
Well, no, I mean, to recognize, first off, to
That's how I feel.
Look, picking up like your opinion of somebody lowering because they're specifically interested in your materials is a pretty normal thing to do.
Well, the gods
These
would have been
people-
interested in everything, not just the gold stuff. They were like,
Yeah.
oh, this amazing, valuable thing. You just get, well, fuck that. I want the gold coins. They're like, why do you want the gold coins? Like, stupid.
Hey, y'all got any more of them gold coins up in there?
That's kind of how Cortez's attitude was. He kept asking for gold.
Like
and they're
every
like,
5
yeah,
minutes, they're like, "Oh, this is delicious fried chicken. Thank you for that. Hey, do you have any more gold coins? Oh, no. Okay, this hot chocolate is good. Hey,
I've
do you have
never
any more
had-
gold
yeah.
coins?" Like that, they're just gonna keep asking.
Let me turn your backyard into legal tender.
They're like, these guys aren't gods. They're like asshole dudes.
but they still respected him because they were so much more technologically advanced than they were, I guess, and they showed it. So-
I mean, there were only a few of them though.
But
Right.
on the subject of Spaniards invading, and you said that they came from the Caribbean back into Mexico and like into the mainland,
Right.
Something interesting that you'll find is that everywhere these people went in modern day, there are, I mean, we've all heard of them: voodoo, hoodoo, just indigenous kind of pagan style, indigenous paganistic religions that use Catholic saints as a template.
I guess that's just like integration of the cultures.
Which brings us to why Santa Muerte is so popular right now. From an etymological perspective, Catholic means universal. It was intended for everyone, for better or for worse. The Catholic Church boasts over 1.3 billion baptized Catholics as of 2019, and might be said to be the de facto religion of South America, with over 40% of Catholics residing there. Prior to colonization, however, Latin America was dominated by different syncretic religions with a veneration for death and deceased ancestors. Until recently, the religion of the invaders had taken to tolerating these intermingling to some extent, partly due to Catholicism's adaptability, but mostly due to the inability to fully displace the ancestral gods and their forms of worship. Which brings us to the point that you brought up, Dingus, where people that wanted to keep practicing their indigenous religions would just superimpose their ancestral or native gods over the saints, which they have quite a few to choose from, but we'll get to that later.
And one of the turning points in all that was when Juan Diego was out. He was a native of Mexican descent. He says he sees this woman and she tells him she's like the mother of God, the Virgin Mary, very Catholic symbol. She tells him, go tell the bishop in town that I'm here and I need a shrine built to me. And he goes back to the town and, the bishop's really busy and he can't really talk to him. But eventually, he tells him, the Virgin Mary's talking to me. This fucking God is talking to me. He says, come back some other time, something like that. And he keeps going back and forth, talking to the Virgin Mary and the bishop. The bishop kind of doesn't believe him. He's just like, bring me proof. Juan Diego, I think it was his father or his brother was like sick one of those days. So he didn't go to see the Virgin Mary or Guadalupe. He didn't go when she told him to go. So she like showed up to him and told him like, hey, what the hell's going on? And eventually she was like, well, don't worry about your dad. He's already healed. I need you to build a shrine for me. I need a shrine here. He says, well, the bishop wants proof. And she's like, okay, well, go to where you first met me tomorrow in the morning. There's going to be some flowers there. Take him to him. He's going to believe you. So he does this. And it's like this very happy story, very lovey story on how like the natives eventually all believe this guy of like the myth
power of the Virgin Mary.
Right. So, they already had a culture. And I think Santa Muerte comes up now because we're all learning about this. And it really has been like the suppression of that elder knowledge. But now the people are starting to fight back. It's taken decades. I don't want to get into that too much. But this is how Santa Muerte comes up in the first place. They accepted Catholicism because one of their own believed in it. He came into contact with the Mother of Christ. Like, how compelling of a story is that?
It's interesting to me because growing up as like a conservative Protestant, the Bible was this thing that it just was written and had been written for thousands of years. But it seems that Catholicism is more than willing and ready to adapt new stories of new miracles.
Well, I think it overlays well because not only do they have a divine trinity, but they also have the Holy Mother. They also have, I believe they have a lot of saints and martyrs as well as angels. So you can overlay that. Like, it doesn't matter how large the pantheon is, there's probably always going to be an archetype that lines up with it, which I always found that really fascinating about religions in general, is that especially ones that are super compatible with other things like Buddhism and Shintoism, like how you can kind of overlay that with something else and make something new.
And all they want you to do is fucking missionary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
at
these
least
natives, the natives already had a pantheon. They already had a system that
Yeah.
they could apply.
The invaders were never fully capable of making the natives give up their old culture and their old ways and their old god.
Well, I don't think they wanted to, because I feel like they thought that it would be more accepted and it would pass along faster if they would have just let them continue practicing the way that they want to and just use the new names. It helps religion spread better that way, like faster.
In the case of the goddess Coatlique, she of the serpent skirt, Spanish invaders were afraid of even touching her statues, let alone igniting the wrath of the natives for destroying them directly. So they tasked the natives to do it. Having to decide between destroying their own culture and the Spanish whip, the natives just pushed over the old statue into ravines, burying them, many of which are still thankfully intact. The National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City has one on display with all of its fine details intact. Larger than a human, and likewise ridiculously heavy.
And these things are supposed to be like cosmic fucking feathered dragon snakes that created the 3 dimensions. Fucking awesome.
Interestingly, they look very similar to Eastern dragons.
I agree.
That's true, because they have tusks. They also fly and they look like serpents, and they often have feathers or like something that looks like manes or fur.
Apparently, they look beautiful as fuck. They're all colorful.
Now, according to Aztec legend, Coatlique was once magically impregnated by a ball of feathers that fell on her while she was sweeping the temple, and subsequently, she gave birth to Huitzilopochtli. Oh boy. Her daughter rallied Coatlique's 400 other children together, goaded them into attacking and decapitating their mother. The instant she was killed, Huitzilopochtli suddenly emerged from his mother's womb, fully grown and armed for battle. He killed many of his brothers and sisters, whose head he cut off and threw them into the sky to become the sun and moon. In one variation of this legend, Huitzilopochtli himself is the child conceived in the ball of feathers incident and is born just in time to save his mother from harm. In the West, we're familiar with this character, Coatlique, because of her inclusion in the Lovecraft pantheon as an old one. This is where the conversation of abjection, femininity, horror, and the disenfranchised becomes relevant, because the cult of the ego and its religious counterparts frankly had no place reserved for a goddess, or by extension a culture that held this part of nature as sacred. It's something that they considered menacing, otherworldly, and evil, just how they consider Santa Muerte today.
I just have to put this out there. Nothing I could possibly say in this podcast will be funnier than you pronouncing these names.
It's like trying to do a skateboard trick, and I don't skateboard.
I saw him skip one in the notes. He
was noped out.
Noped out of that one, yeah.
The invaders were not able to fully convince the natives to get rid of their old culture, and so they just kind of continued doing it. And so, like you said, Mari, a lot of these old ideas were superimposed over the new, and that's what brings us to Santa Muerte and her relevance today.
So why is Santa Muerte relevant? As of 2021, Santa Muerte is worshipped by millions, making her one of the more popular and
up-and-comers on the scene.
In style. In fact, while 80% of Mexicans identify as Catholic, making it the second most Catholic nation besides Brazil, either way, she's becoming very popular. Her followers include the impoverished, criminals, sex workers, prisoners, and members of the gay and transgender communities, people who find themselves abject to Catholicism proper, or in other words, subject to increased risk of violence. She can guarantee a proper death, and not an early one, just whichever one you're supposed to get.
Which is not a luxury that all, transgender or in other ways abjected people get to experience as much as they ought to.
Fun fact, in many regions of the world, it is still legal to stone gay and trans or people who aren't straight to death.
Yeah. Actually, in some countries, a lot of people transition to avoid being stoned for being homosexual.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And that means with rocks, not marijuana.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would love to get stoned to death with marijuana, but it's physically impossible.
I mean,
There is an amount though.
Yeah, but
It's
you
just-
have to
it's just
inject it
impossible.
intravenously. Like you have to do it artificially. You can't smoke weed to death. You can't.
Yeah,
give
it's
me
impossible.
a shot back and a bonfire, and
No.
I will show you how.
No, you'll fall asleep before you can smoke enough
I'll
to kill
put it
yourself.
in an iron lung.
Dude, that you're just gonna blow out your lung at that point. That's not even the weed. Moving on.
You deny my genius.
That would be a great way to die, though.
So despite the fact Catholicism has all these different groups and people that it doesn't want to include, 80% of Mexicans identify as Catholic, making it the second most Catholic nation besides Brazil. Catholicism is heavily predicated upon the saints, though, and currently there are 10,000 saints that the church venerates. Now, to the church,
What the hell?
the saints are a diverse group of people: missionaries, widows, theologians, parents, nuns, priests, basically everyday people who dedicated their lives to the loving pursuit of God.
Some examples of these saints, and these are just the ones that are recognized. There are many places in the world where people worship saints that the Catholic Church would not agree with. Here's some: Saint Christopher, who is the patron saint of travelers; Saint Rita, who is the patron saint of marital problem;
Yeah.
Saint Apollonia, who is the patron saint of dentistry; Luke and Catherine of Bologna.
That's baloney.
Okay, fucking a word that ends with A does not sound like E.
Yeah, it
you know?
does. It's
No,
fucking.
it's
It's
bull-
baloney.
It's baloney.
bullshit. That's bullshit.
It's a bunch of
No,
baloney.
it's taking it hard and making it English. That's an A.
Balonha.
Don't give me this shit.
Bologna.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
actually
I'll take
Italian,
Bologna.
dude.
Well, you know what? Fuck him.
At least it's not French.
Aloysius Gonzaga. AIDS. He's the patron saint of AIDS. Oh, AIDS caregivers.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
So it's through the curious feature of all these saints that happen to exist in Catholicism that Catholicism has become a vessel for practical magic. So without running any mods or cheat codes, there is essentially an entire system of bizarre personalities available to you within their own floral, color, and symbolic associations, with particular resumes for dealing with particular earthly problems built right into Catholicism. If you are an oppressed religious culture with your own gods and ancestors that helped with the same problems, you could continue your practices mostly unnoticed by substituting the appropriate saint. Here we might be tempted to discuss the religions of Voodoo? Is it Voodoo? I thought it was voodoo, but
Odin.
It's the same.
I know,
kind
but
of.
that's probably the correct way to say it.
Vodon.
I learned something. Yeah. Neat. Okay, so Vodon and Santeria are also based kind of in this as well, or you would be tempted to think that, right?
Yes.
Okay, but what we're going to talk about today is actually a less structured blending of the old and the new. A broth stewed by your everyday person immersed in a backdrop of these various cultural mores. Folk Catholicism. So here we have an indigenous tribe or a people that introduced to new ideas. And you have, like I said, folk Catholicism to me is a blending of the old and the new and more of an eclectic new age magical religion.
Even though like Mexicans may not agree with you because you sound like some crazy occultist saying that to them.
True, but
They're like,
Why-
no, we're devout Catholics and all this stuff.
in the Bible it says that you should worship none others. You should have no other gods before me. And a lot of them will have shrines just to one specific patron. And so in this example, pretty much everybody might have a shrine to Santa Muerte. So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean-
you don't just have a cross on the wall. You have all this other stuff going on. So it is pretty pagan. It looks pagan.
It's a lot more fun. I like to use the word fun for
It
that.
is fun. No, that's what I'm saying. It's fun. I didn't say pagan's not fun.
Oh, well, yeah, but I get you. We're on the same page.
If anything,
a
like
brand
actual
of
real Catholicism, strict, like Orthodox Catholicism is boring as fuck.
Well, her rituals are very much they use the same. They have Hail Marys and All Fathers in her practice. You have to know these things.
Yeah, and do you guys also get the feeling that a lot of horror movies that deal with Catholicism and the devil in particular are kind of linked to this vibe? Because it seems like you can also curse people with this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool to like the metalhead spirit in me, because I love that shit, but that's not very cool. Like, you're just like cursing people and stuff, and a lot of the rituals that the natives did were very, very brutal, because they saw death on a battlefield as like a waste of your blood. That blood belongs to God or the gods, and we're gonna just like maim you and then capture you,
Yeah.
do this whole thing with you for like a whole week of like maybe feeding you, and or like depending on what time of the year it was or where the fucking stars were, they'll fucking just torture you for a whole week and then take you up to the Pyramidion and rip your heart out and have a big blood orgy
Yep.
in the name of God. That's very, very fucking brutal. And a lot of these white folk, these Catholics, are like, nah, we these people, we need to like wipe them out. This
Y'all
stuff.
need Jesus.
And they kind of wanted that because I guess some percentage of the people that were not part of the Aztec power, like class, because there's always class. There was kings and queens in this culture. Any tribe who wasn't down with them or like contributing to their fucking cause, we're gonna kill you. We're gonna sacrifice you to the gods, and that's gonna give us more power. So fuck you more.
So the people with hearts that were available to be ripped out of their chest and eaten were probably a little more receptive to a new religion than people whose hearts were not available to be ripped out of their chest and eaten.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Those are the tribes that helped the Europeans overthrow the Aztec Empire, because it was an empire and they killed and sacrificed, and it didn't matter if you're a woman, child, man, like all was on the table for God to spill the blood for.
Let's take a science break. So where they performed the ritual of cutting out the heart, and they would imbibe on the blood, is that correct? They would eat it.
Drink it, they'd eat the heart,
and they'd lay in it and have sex in it, right?
They would eat you. Yes, they would.
Okay. So here's something very interesting, is that cannibal is like science about cannibals have learned that the first time that you do it, it creates almost like an addiction cycle. So you will become more and more inclined to crave and eat human meat if you eat it.
They talk about that in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
You get a bloodlust, and that's probably why they needed more and more and more sacrifices, and then they were overthrown eventually. Also,
they were the largest civilization when the Europeans met them, I believe.
They were essentially the Egyptians of South America, or the Americas, the whole Americas, basically, because there were some up here in North America almost. There are some in Central America and almost North America. But not only that, but they performed these rituals in their temples, which were pyramids that pointed towards the sun.
They were astronomers. They were some of the best astronomers.
And they would walk the victim up the stairs in the front of the temple up to the altar, which was where was it? At the peak of the pyramid in the top. And like, can you guys see, like, okay, I'm seeing some all-seeing eye vibes right here at the top of the pyramid, the Illuminati killing and eating their servants and slaves.
Give me the bat, Wendy.
Yeah.
Just give me the bat. I'm not
Wendy,
gonna hurt
scream.
you, Wendy.
Your line is scream, Wendy. Your line is scream.
So this kind of like integrates the whole death aspect in Native American culture, but like pre-European influence.
Right. Well,
so they love it. It's almost like they are totally fine with death and the idea, and it can kind of be looked at as a saint in the modern eye. I think that's really how it comes down to it, because
does the Catholic Church not like Santa Muerte not because she's death and skulls and stuff, or is it just because it's women running the show? Because there's plenty of blood and death in Christianity and Catholicism.
Right. What's up with this, right? It's got to be the female energy that they're afraid of.
I feel like, I mean, it's also just like a general trait that the Catholic Church has had throughout history, where they don't really like sharing power. And you can certainly get your prayers answered from either praying to Jesus or Santa Muerte.
So if the Catholic Church is afraid of this, does that mean that it's real? It has real power in the Catholic idea?
Yeah.
I suppose it depends first on whether or not
it does.
Jesus was real.
They wouldn't deny that. So
I wouldn't deny it either.
let's talk a little bit about Santa Muerte herself, at least as much as you can talk about a god or an egregore or whatever. So Santa Muerte's shrine in Tapito is overlooked by Donna Queta Romero. Most of the priesthood are actually women. The shrine came to be strangely and spontaneously created when Donna's son gave her a Santa Muerte statue that was too big for her house. So what'd she do? She put it on her stoop. This was during a time when Santa Muerte worship was usually done in secret, causing a chain reaction of others to put Santa Muerte on their stoop as well. Before long, Donna's place became a sort of mecca for believers and showers of solidarity. In her ceremonies, statues are held high into heaven, asking the blessing of both God and of Santa Muerte, praising her as an angel of God, most pure death, and presence of light and strength. This ritual, involving hundreds, maybe thousands of people, is said to activate the statues and imbue them with the spirit herself of Lady Death.
This is like within the past 100 years. This isn't like a story that's 1,000 years old. Just saying.
It's strange. It almost seems like an old world cult. You know, like in Greek mythology, there was the cult of Dionysus.
It seems like a resurgence almost, but the fact that it's done by like women, and especially in this certain character, it feels to me like Santa Muerte is an appropriate new Aeon god from my Thelemic religious perspective. But that's, that's my own thing, I guess, there. I still think I'm right.
But is it really a death cult? Because I don't really.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
not referring to
no.
it as a cult in like the sense that Jonestown is a cult.
No,
No.
but that's what I'm saying. A death cult can be like a religion that's obsessed with death and destruction and dying and blood, like we were talking about the Aztecs just a second ago. But no, this is very different in that they're exonerating and honoring death, and they're placing her as like a positive angelic figure. Whereas in Catholicism, wouldn't that be Lucifer or Satan?
Yeah.
And he would be a male that's shown to be a demon, a monster under the earth in fiery hell. So it's like an inversion of that. And then they relate it to the Virgin Mary too, because they often will take her appearance and stuff. And
that's what the Catholic Church does not like. For instance, a popular statue you can pick up is the Pieta, which is basically the Virgin Mary holding her dead son that Michelangelo made famous, but with Santa Muerte holding Christ instead. And the Catholic Church is like, no, you can't do it.
Yeah, but it's true. It's like a duality of the spirit of Virgin Mary is what I'm seeing. Because honestly, if you think about it, like she was a virgin birth, right? So Jesus had no father, technically. You would get stoned for that back then. I mean, she was basically considered a whore. And she Mary had to pretend with her brother Joseph to be a married couple so people wouldn't scorn and spit on them. And the best place they could live is in a barn. So yeah, it's like, I think the idea and the concept of this and why it makes sense to relate it to Mother Mary is because these people who have seen so much war and hardship and death, they have learned to see beauty in death. And seeing life come to an end. They've learned, or to see destruction. They've learned how to see the beauty of it and to turn it around and get blessings out of it.
Yeah, language does fall short because you could say, yes, like Digga said, it is definitely a cult. And it's a cult to a death goddess, but it is definitely not a death cult.
It's not about causing death and destruction or worshiping its masculine power, but it's the feminine power of death would be to be vulnerable to it and to accept it and to let it happen.
I'd just like for those listening now to consider some of the problems that are faced by people living in Latin America, Mexico, all the way through South America right now. Many of these countries are underdeveloped. Many of them suffer from violence that we just don't have a concept of here in the developed world. You would certainly have a more intimate relationship with death there than you would here.
Yeah, you almost need it as a contrast to make your life more vivacious and have more meaning and be more. It's to appreciate the beauty of that. And all death is to them is a punctuation mark at the end of the sentence of your life. It's part of your expression.
Is it an upside down
So the things that you give as
Could be.
offerings the things you give as offerings to Santa Muerte are things you would enjoy in life, like cigar smoke, marijuana, mezcal. Other libations with prayers to activate this Santa Muerte statue are done through shared communion. While puffing marijuana at Christ on the cross might be seen as insulting, contrary, the White Lady, she rather likes it. Furthermore, she seems to appreciate this done as, I said, an act of sharing, rather than one of mere offering, making it an act of appreciation of shared enjoyment and of mutual pleasure. So no, not a death cult. It's more about life.
Lovely.
That's
I just wanna
funny
put this out.
because Santa Muerte is like, hey, pass that shit, dog.
Basically,
Like, give me that.
Pass the duchy on the left.
But in specifics about the marijuana and her connection to like any practical magic you might be doing with her, what marijuana and tobacco represent is a connection to like a divine channel. It gets you more in a trance, in tune.
Isn't
this
it a
is-
bridge to the spirit world where it
Yeah.
opens up a portal that you can actually manifest there
So-
and be
so-
here too?
I don't know if we're gonna get into it on this episode, but like when you build the altar to it to Santa Muerte, you can blow marijuana smoke or tobacco smoke on the altar, like to start your daily ritual or whatever. Because I smoke every day, so I guess that's how I would do it. I'd smoke my joint and blow it on her, knowing that I'm pumping in this energy of I'm trying to connect to this higher communication, and I'm done with the three dimensions.
It's to be mindful.
I'm
Yeah,
To be more
that's
mindful.
3 dimensions.
I'm done with these 3 dimensions.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk to you, Santa Muerte, with all the love in my heart and all that. You pour all that energy into what you're doing. It's the intention, it's the will, like in any Western occultism altar.
And you know how they talk about like how your day will go by a lot longer if you hate what you're doing. Like if you go to work like, oh man, I can't believe I have to go to work. This sucks. I don't blah blah blah. I think that vibe is to remind you also, because this is why I smoke. Because it helps me chill out and actually really enjoy time passing by, and to like really get into my work and enjoy, like, even if your work is taxing and it hurts you at the end of the day, it's like, that feeling when you worked really hard and your muscles ache and you lay down at the end of the day with something to smoke and a beer, and you're like, it's like that to me is that whole vibe that she puts off.
Unless you're recording a podcast and falling asleep in your chair, then it's more like
Bedtime story.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
but she also likes jewels, fine fabrics, rare perfumes, and other traditional fineries reserved for an ancient goddess. This chick's not an ascetic. In fact, referring to her as a chick is not entirely unfounded either, with devotees referring to her as La Cabrona, which in some circumstances might be considered like a diss, but also kind of like a term of endearment. What does it mean anyway?
It's totally a diss, like
Okay.
cabron, cabrona. That's like you're dumb.
Oh, like
you're-
a bimbo.
Yeah, you're. It's like, what are you doing, cabron? Like pinche cabron. It's like fucking dumbass.
You know who else she gives me the vibe of is Mary Magdalene, because Jesus like hung out with her all the time, even though she was like a heathen prostitute, Palestinian chick. But she was a total sinner, but Jesus accepted and loved her regardless and
Yeah.
still preached to her. So
Well-
like I feel like that's also kind of the vibe, is like it's pretty much everything that you would want to hide or that the church rejects, but it's still a part of you. And that's no reason to not, I don't know. I just feel like it's really nice that they have such a nice association with
I think
with death and like sharing and like not judging somebody.
that's a good association for like any physical woman manifesting her energy. But
Yeah.
Hecate is like her otherworldly power that I feel like it most encompasses her, because she's absolute love when you die. Like, when you die, you're going to get loved by her. You're
Oh.
dead now. So Hecate's kind of like that. She's definitely that.
Oh, definitely a shade of that archetype.
With an owl, I guess that's also like Athena. I think I'm right.
I think
Wisdom.
so.
Yeah,
Yes, that's right.
She's got a whole bunch of stuff going on with her, Santa Muerte.
Yeah, so
talking about.
so the way we just talked about interacting with her emphasizes those maiden aspects, which you said, but she remains fiercely protective and generative, like the mother aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like
she
Mama
also
Bear.
right, but she also bears the esoteric and the harsh wisdoms of the crone.
That's true, because you have to face your death at some point,
She's not negotiable.
which is your fate. Which also the fates were old ladies.
Yeah, 3. And so yeah, that puts her in alignment with what you said. The Fates, Sophia, Babylon, Hecate, Trideva,
So
the Charities,
Malik,
the Horae, the Morai, and of course the feared Baba Yaga. I think there's some very
Ooh.
big similarities with Baba
one of
Yaga.
my
Yeah.
favorites.
'Cause Baba Yaga
But when-
could come to you looking like a maiden too. But
Yeah.
you're better
It-
off with Santa Muerte than Baba Yaga will fuck you up.
Yeah, Santa Muerte is like a beautiful modern rendition of all that stuff, and it doesn't involve any like weird rituals. It's just like praying to God in a
Oh.
Catholic way.
I'm sure Santa Muerte could fuck you up if the situation called for it.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
sure she does some people.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about that. Like, hey, if
I
I'm praying to
not.
Santa Muerte and you are for each other's death, like, what happens? Is she just gonna kill us both, or like?
Well, like some people, like this is called path work, where an occultist will have like a specific path that they're interested in or called to, and this path work is usually not the most pleasant thing in the world, or it might not be. I'm just feeling like with something as unavoidable, as inevitable as death, which is personified by Santa Muerte, that there could be a harsher side to this. Certainly, some people who worship her would see it.
Yeah,
You
can
wouldn't
ask
want to. You wouldn't want to attack one of her followers or someone she's protecting, or a child that is protected, under her.
Well, like what I mean is, just because you're under the protection of a god or goddess, though, doesn't mean that it's going to be easy.
especially when she's the goddess of death. She's like, "Yep, I'll take you. You're my follower. Here we go. You're coming with me now. You're dead."
Yeah, there's probably some hardships. I don't know. I just don't know.
There's
I just feel
definitely
like
got to be.
To
'Cause
acknowledge.
Knowledge.
you can use Santa Muerte for anything. Apparently, I am not a devotee. I've never tried any of her stuff, but if you've been wronged, especially like with death involved, you can send death in a just way to somebody else, I guess. I haven't tried it.
It's feminine though and merciful in that it's selective. It's not. It's like Mari was saying. It's not the masculine personification of death, which is just like death. It's a little
Yeah.
different.
It's internal. Like it's more of being vulnerable or receptive to death. Not
Using
not,
it judiciously.
not trying to bring it on recklessly or for pleasure, but to really like lay back and just let life take you wherever it does.
So we could say that she presides over all things that die, which from our extended discussion also include the gods. And as it's said in the Bardo Thodal, even an incarnation as a powerful god is subject to death as suddenly as a foul smell upon the wind. As such, she is understandably powerful, most of the universe falling under her sway. Now, what can Santa Muerte do? According to her followers, pretty much everything. She can grant you all sorts of favors.
Depending on the color of her robe, of course.
Yes, there are a few different ones. She's often invoked by people who take on dangers of the night: taxi drivers, bar owners, police, soldiers, prostitutes,
Humans, drug runners.
and sometimes. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying it's popular amongst them too. I think it's cool personally.
Say it again. It's popular amongst like gangsters.
It's popular amongst them. It's popular amongst pretty much everybody that you can imagine. Any kind of person would have a use for Santa Muerte. Though I've heard it tends to be,
I'm sorry. Finish.
no, well, you said no.
No, I was gonna say something funny.
Oh.
I thought you were done. No. Keep continuing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Say it now.
I don't even know if this is gonna be edited out, but fucking Alex Jones went off on one of his fucking Wars things about Santa Muerte.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to hear
Tell
it.
us. Tell us.
Well, he was like, "Oh, they worship her in Sinaloa. Sinaloa."
no,
Sin
dude.
Sinaloa.
He didn't say
I
that,
don't-
did he? Oh my god.
Yes, he did. He says it like that, and he's just going off like, these cartel members are worshiping death. They
These
kill
cartel
kids.
members, they're worshiping death.
These
They're
cartel
worshiping-
members We're worshiping death. You're fake.
I
You're a
love that
fraud.
guy.
Get you.
To be honest with you, Malachor 5, I love you too, man. You're a really cool guy, man. We gotta hang out sometimes.
Destroy the child.
See, you got the echo, dude. Oh,
Alex Jones. I don't know about
so
that
good.
guy. Though.
Alex Jones here at the whole rabbit show.
I wanted to bring up Santa Muerte because Fox News was talking so much shit, basically saying the same stuff.
Well, yeah, they're like, this is the god of the fucking cartels, and they're dealing drugs to you in your streets and
Oh boy.
decapitating people by the number 13 and hanging
like-
13 heads across bridges. It's like, what?
And they're using Bitcoin to pay each other with illegal money.
that's not what Santa Muerte is about, for sure. Like, she does not condone of unnecessary killing.
Well, she says she's the goddess of proper death, which proper death would mean either dying in your sleep of a disease or of natural causes.
Suppose there's nothing.
Or
stopping.
defending your family or somebody you love. You don't go out and start shit and get killed. Like, she's not. I don't think she's like a battlefield or war goddess at all.
I don't know. I suppose there's nothing stopping your rightful death from being pretty fucked up.
If
That's
you
true.
deserve it.
Right, but it's
But
like,
if
do
you
you
deserve
deserve
it,
it or
yeah.
not? Yeah, do you deserve dying? Because I don't think she'll come. I don't think she grants people's wishes or comes to them or listens to their prayers if they're acting in a certain way.
It's kind of like if you're a narco and you're dealing drugs and stuff, your ritual of killing somebody randomly because they saw what you were doing is not gonna send the soul to the Godhead. So it's a waste of the soul. It's a waste of the bloodshed.
Correct.
So don't do it
So
because
don't get
that
caught, basically.
well, no, it's just like
Oh, Moloch.
she's there to protect the innocent for sure. Like
Yeah,
But she accepts everyone, though. Like, those cartel people oftentimes are people that were put in those positions because their whole family would get killed if they don't go along
Right.
with it.
They
And
have no choice.
Santa
Yeah,
Muerte
yeah.
protects them as well. And so if they have to do a job that's dirty, then she might help them do that dirty job, you know?
And
I
maybe
don't know.
maybe the dude that ordered the hit will get hurt, but what I'm saying is there's always going to be a psychopath at the top of those kind of organizations that are doing the blackmailing to get the guy to do the crime for him.
So then
Oh,
is
yeah.
she doing her job or not of like eliminating these evil
She's
it's not even exclusive to Mexicans, first
she's
of all.
also enabling alcoholics, so I don't know. And
I don't-
prostitutes.
I don't think gods have much of a moral agenda.
Well, if
Yeah.
it's based in Catholicism, I think that's why the church frowns on it so much and hates it, and they don't want to be associated with it because they're like, oh well, that's all negative. That's like, dude, you're totally sinning over there, man. And then they just don't get it. They don't get that some people have to do that to survive. You know what I mean?
But she does all kinds of shit. She's not just she is death, I guess, helps you avoid death. She protects your pets. She can heal children. It's hard to just say she is all that evil encompassed in one. That's not only her. She is everything.
Lasting marriage where both of you live past 50. That
Oh,
doesn't happen sometimes.
I guess, yeah, if that's what you're praying for.
If we're talking
Actually,
about,
everything, really.
if we're
You can
talking
always
were we going to talk about her colors? Because this is interesting. Because we were talking about how she's also she can also be considered negative or associated with death. It's if she's dressed in black, it's for protection, which would mean okay, if our example of a mobster in a Mexican cartel, if
That's
his
also
family
the color
is
that's
under threat,
associated.
if his family is under threat and he must do the thing to save his family, do
He'd be
the
black.
thing. Then it's she's the protection is how she's aggressive or violent would be
But-
under protection.
You'd have her in black on your altar when you're trying to get somebody killed as well.
That's what I'm saying is protection.
Fucking weird.
Yeah, but
Basic color magic.
but killing someone off it's me or you kind of mentality of competition.
Yeah, it's protection. It's protection
It is
versus protection. It's I'm gonna go kill somebody, protect me from getting killed myself.
And then if two people pray for her to come and they're fighting each other, I guess she gets to judge which one is more worthy of a easy death or whatever.
Everybody loves a
Yeah.
good glad fight.
But yeah, I like this color coding. Because apparently, like, if
There's a lot. There's a lot of colors.
you use
and
red for love, yellow or amber is for health, and it's seen in like rehabilitation and centers, and I'm guessing hospitals too.
Yep.
Green is for legal problems and like issues regarding the incarcerated. So like lawyers and stuff would pray to the green one, or like people who are seeking legal help or how to get out of jail. So basically, she's also like the bail bondsman on the square outside the county jail. And then gold would be concerned with like money and I guess not only fiscal wealth, but also like abundance or production of more money or
Blank.
even offspring. And then brown would be to invoke spirits from beyond the grave or even our world.
Yeah, that's for doing
Possibly.
occultism. You get brown.
Which I think it means earth, like it's associated with brown, the earth, right?
The dead, the traditional Grim Reaper
Right.
role. Yeah.
That's her traditional role. And then blue would be like if I'm studying in college, it's for wisdom and
knowledge,
knowledge. Knowledge.
I think blue Santa Muerte is my favorite because it's like
Yeah.
harmless. It's all like me. I don't want to make money and be richer than anybody. I just want to learn.
That's
Red.
definitely the one I would have.
Red,
Red.
roses, AK-47s, marijuana.
I would have the red one too, but I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work.
I don't think it's for me personally.
She can do it.
What I find interesting is that I'm drawing a lot of parallels between her and Pluto specifically. Like you
Yeah.
can pray for
Yeah.
wealth because death is associated with the earth in which all the riches of the world are held. All the fucking money, the precious jewels, the gems, it comes from the earth. Which one would you wear for your kids not to die again? Would that still be black?
Black.
No.
No.
There's a
It would
color
be
for it.
healing. It would be like orange or like something like that or yellow.
Either way, you could associate her with Scorpio in this regard, where Scorpio is not only death but regeneration. You know, you could evoke her for legal problems or freedom from bail. Death causes change. Like even as a tarot card, when you pull death, it means change is coming.
That's
I
true.
can see how she could apply in all these situations.
Some of the ones to protect a unborn baby on the altar, they have a transparent skeleton with a baby inside of it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking rad.
A baby in a jar. That'd be kind of fucked up.
It's a skeleton jar.
I don't
Is it a
little
skeleton?
Dude, is the little baby a skeleton too? Oh, that'd be so cute.
Whoa.
I don't a little baby skeleton. I mean, I
So
guess if you want your baby to be dead,
I mean, if one person has a baby, it's probably already gonna be dead.
I mean, I guess they're kind of dead until they're like born, right?
I
The
think
grave
dead
is a
is
womb.
specific. Like, dead is a state of death is a state of being inanimate, specifically compared to having been alive. That's a Frankenstein fucking sentence, but I hope you can
It worked.
get something useful out of it.
Coronavirus update. More recently, purple, yellow, and white candles have been used by devotees to supplicate Santa Muerte for healing of and protection from coronavirus, as documented by Kingsbury of Chestnut, the leading researcher on Santa Muerte.
Else helps with coronavirus is male vitality and now available at infowars.com.
It's called eugenics. I feel like I'm 47 again.
We now have special purple bottles and
I'm
yellow and white. I don't know. Like, why purple, yellow, and white, though? What does white even do?
They didn't have, all the stuff I saw, they didn't explain what the white dress was for. It's probably to communicate with God or something, man.
Okay. I'm sorry. I had to throw one of those in there.
Oh, it's to exorcise dingus. That's what it's for.
Extras.
Exorcise as in exorcist, as in you have a demon in you, boy.
And if you'd
Okay.
like to hear the exorcism of Darth Dingus, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where you can get all our extended episodes for $5, including this one, where we're going to continue talking about Catholic resistance to Santa Muerte, ancient ties with Aztec gods, and how to do magic/work with Santa Muerte for realsies. But if you want to hear that, please go ahead and visit Patreon. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Let Jesus fuck you. Let Jesus fuck you.